drinker just has no idea what that's about. And so I think that the label does play into that, especially newer labels, which are, I think newer labels are kind of coding. And they're kind of hinting and winking at this idea that, wine should not be this highfalutin thing, but can be just something that can be simple and straightforward. And that's maybe the emotional appeal, as if to say, I'm with you, I understand what you want, and I'm not here to trick you.
So in other words, confidence.
Yeah,
trust.
Confidence. Yeah, confidence and trust. I guess the other element of it is just that when I spoke to Corey Miller and Eric Murnovich, he's done graphic design projects for Google and Facebook and other companies, and I think that modern designers, very openly understand that the mood that you're in, the way that you approach something in the visual aspect is going to influence how you consume it, how you enjoy it. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I think about, if you go to a dinner party, the wine label might be the only labeled object on the table. Nothing else would have a packaging or a label, but the wine and the wine label is there. People, they grab it, they pick it up, maybe during a lull in the conversation, they'll just spin it around, and it's just something to get people talking.
And you have some tape from Eric Murnovich.
If this was ever on a table, I wanted this to be loud enough in a dark room that whoever was sitting at the table next to you, it would bring their attention. It would bring attention to your friends surrounded by the table, and maybe even your server.
So after going through this and the design and the consumer buying habits, etc., what was the one thing that really surprised you the most?
One thing that I thought was really interesting was just how these two different groups, and granted they're groups that have vested interest, just the kind of battle that they're locked in. Because for wine buyers who know the world of European wines well, and they respect tradition, and they have a certain worldview in their head, these modern labels are marketing gimmicks. So if they see a really off-base label, they'll just throw it with the labels that have cupcakes on them, the labels that have puppy dogs on them. And then for the people who are trying to break the mold, who are modernists, it's exactly the opposite. It's those labels with the chateaus and the script and the cream-colored seals. Those are the things that are tricking you. So just seeing the fact that you're looking at two very separate things and you're just seeing the same logic applied to the opposite of them, I thought that was so interesting. Another thing that I thought was so interesting, there's this wine, and it's called Bionic Frog, and it's just this absurd, cartoon wine. It would almost looks like a cartoon from a comic book, and it's this big silly frog on the label, and the wine costs $250. And when I spoke to Andre Mack about it, he said something so interesting. He said, if that wine cost $25, no one would ever buy it. Everyone would think it was a gimmick and it's absurd. But because that wine costs $250, you've got consumers who know, wow, these people must have a lot of confidence in their wine to put something so bold and absurd on it. And I don't know, something about that absurd frog and that $250 sticker it just sticks out to me.
Well, it's the old saying in the antique business, right? If it doesn't sell, double the price.
Yeah.
Andre, thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
That was producer Andres O'Hara. Buying wine is like buying shoes by mail. You never know if they're going to fit. So consumers rely on other clues to make a buying decision. The wine store clerk, the name of the wine, and of course the label. That makes me think that buying wine is like speed dating. You have so little time to gather so much information. So maybe buying the wine with the big frog on the label is not such a bad idea after all. Right now, I'm heading to the kitchen at Milk Street to chat with editorial director J.M. Hirsch about this week's recipe. J.M., how are you?
All right, how are you?
You got back from Rome recently, and you brought back some great pasta recipes. Cacio e pepe, carbonara, but you also came back with a recipe where they turned broccoli into a pasta sauce, which sounds, I don't know,
unappealing?
Interesting / dubious. So what's going on?
Yeah, broccoli sauce is a hard sell. And to be honest, when I sat down, it didn't strike me that I was eating broccoli sauce. It looked like pesto. It was bright green, it was light, it looked rich, it coated the pasta really well, and it looked nothing like broccoli, right? And then I took a bite, and it was light, it was bright, it was fresh, and it tasted of broccoli, but it wasn't heavy like you expect with broccoli, and it was a completely different way of coating pasta. It was delicious.
So the obvious question is, in Rome, the broccoli may be tastier than the broccoli here, right?
Well, I don't know that. So what was different was that they were using a part of the broccoli that we usually don't ever even see, never mind use, the broccoli leaves. They were blanching those and then pureeing them to make the sauce. Now, here in the United States, the leaves are stripped off before the broccoli ever gets to the grocery store. And so our workaround was using the stalks, because we found that if we peeled the stalks and blanched them and pureed them, we got that same sort of light flavor and the same sort of creamy texture.
But you don't get a lot of color.
No, we did have to find a workaround for that. And because we lose some of the freshness of flavor and color when we get rid of the leaves. And so the workaround was actually pretty simple. Baby spinach leaves, blanch them for about 20 seconds, and then throw them in the blender with the broccoli stalks, and it gave us that color and flavor back.
So broccoli stalks, broccoli leaves, and pasta cooking water.
That was about it. A little bit of cheese, a little bit of
Cheese.
hot pepper. It came together fast, a little lemon zest to brighten the flavors, and that's it.
So while you're cooking the pasta, you can make broccoli sauce. Jam, thank you very much.
Thank
A
you.
new way to use broccoli at home on pasta. Thanks.
And you can find this recipe at 177milkstreet.com.
I'm Christopher Kimball, and you're listening to Milk Street Radio. Coming up, more of your culinary questions from my co-host, Sarah Bolton. We'll be right back.
Support for Christopher Kimball's Milk Street comes from Ferguson. Ferguson Bath, Kitchen, and Lighting Gallery proudly supports Milk Street and culinary crusaders everywhere. Bath, kitchen, and lighting collections in several styles available in-store and online at fergusonshowrooms.com. Support for Milk Street Radio also comes from Regalware, makers of 1919 cookware. Cooking happens in the kitchen, but life happens around the kitchen table. American-made stainless and non-stick cookware. Learn more at 1919cookware.com.
Supporting WHYY, the Delaware Symphony Orchestra celebrates legendary pianist Leon Fleischer's 90th year with Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 12 under music director David Amato, Friday, March 22nd at 7:30 at the Grand Opera House in Wilmington, and Sunday, March 24th at 3 o'clock at Cape Henlopen High School in Lewis. The orchestra will also perform Bruckner's Symphony No. 7. Information and tickets at delawaresymphony.org. On the next Fresh Air Weekend, we talk with A.D. Bryant, a cast member of Saturday Night Live and star of the new comedy series Shrill, based on Lindy West's book about identifying as fat and feminist. Also, we talk about finding God in the faith of others with Barbara Brown Taylor, an Episcopal priest who left her job as a church rector to teach the world's religions. Join us this afternoon at 2 on WHYY.
This is Milk Street Radio. I'm Christopher Kimball. Right now, it's time to take some calls with my beloved co-host, Sarah Moulton. Sarah, are you ready?
I'm so ready, Chris. Welcome to Milk Street. Who's calling?
Hi, this is Elizabeth from Driven Springs, Texas.
Hello, Elizabeth. How can we help you?
So I have a question about beans,
Dried beans.
dried beans. Well, I am one of the people who have become obsessed with my Instapot, and I love the idea of pressure cooking beans. But every time I look it up, the debate of whether or not to soak beans keeps coming up. So I wanted to know your opinion on both nutritional and cooking value of, do we still soak beans before we cook them or not?
Yes.
Well, wait. No. The only reason to soak beans, if you're using a pressure cooker, is that I would use 2 tablespoons of salt and 8 cups of water and a cup of beans. And you will have tastier beans, because the salt will get into the beans and you'll have more flavor. It will not affect, because the pressure cooker does such a great job of beans under high pressure, it's not really going to affect the texture that much. So Sarah's giving me that
Well,
evil eye.
doesn't the salt help to soften the skin too?
Yeah, it does, but in a pressure cooker does a great job. So you can get away with it. And the whole point
Get
of the
away
pressure
with
cooker,
not soaking, you're
yeah,
saying.
the pressure
But the
cooker will
flavor's
make
so
it-
much better when you soak
That's
them.
true. You're going to get much more flavor with salt.
Also, it really, I mean, it's very quick with the pressure cooker, but if you soak them, they only take 4 to 7 minutes. Now, you know, if you haven't soaked them, they take about 20 to 35.
4 to 7 minutes in the pressure cooker?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I know. And I'll tell you, here's the interesting thing, Elizabeth, also. It depends on where you get your beans and how
That's true.
long they've
That's
been
true.
hanging out. because if you've got a bag of beans that sat, and you may not know, even if you pick it up at a supermarket, how long it's been sitting there. If those beans have sat there for a year, they could take so much longer. So anytime I see a chart of how long dried beans take to cook, whether it's traditionally or in a pressure cooker, I just don't believe it. You just have to try it out
The
yourself.
short answer to her simple question is, for flavor purposes, it's better to soak them in 2 tablespoons of salt, 8 cups of water overnight. But in terms of texture, you can get away with it in a pressure cooker.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And
But
so does that apply to all kinds of dried beans? So
Yes.
pinto, black, red?
yes, and as I'm sure you know, you have to add some oil to the water so that it doesn't jam up the drainage spot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So there you go. Salting and soaking overnight is usually a good
it
idea.
really makes I think it makes a huge difference.
Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have
Okay.
a great one.
You're listening to Mill Street Radio. I'm Christopher Kimball. Give us a ring anytime at 855-426-9843. One more time, 855-426-9843. Or send us an email at questions@millstreetradio.com.
Hello, who's calling and how can we help you?
My name's Dominic from Chicago.
Hi, Dominic from Chicago.
My question is, I've been using the Better Than Bouillon for, Better Than Bouillon chicken base.
Mhm.
Whenever a recipe calls for, a sauce or to deglaze a pan, I just been microwaving the amount of water I need and then whisking in the Better Than Bouillon. And my question was, I was wondering if I could use substitute miso paste instead, because it's in the refrigerator and it's usually right next to it, and I only use it when it's called for in recipes, which isn't that often.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too.
There are 3 kinds. There's sort of a white miso, which is a little sweeter and lighter. There's a mid-range, sort of a brown paste, which is mid-bodied, and then there's a very dark red miso paste you can find.
They also go up in saltiness.
And if you're doing something with beef, for example, you might use the
Red
heavier
one. The
color.
red one, yeah.
But I think that's a great idea.
It's like an instant umami bomb too.
And we do that with soups and stews, use miso as a base with hot water
Yeah.
or with water.
I think everybody should be using miso more.
So when the recipe calls for just deglazing the pan with chicken stock, it's not going to alter.
No. And by the way, the Better Than Bouillon is what I use. I love it because it stays fresh in the refrigerator.
Right.
And you don't have to throw out the box or the can after you use half of it. And the chicken base, I think, is very good. But you could use miso, absolutely. Sure.
I would keep in mind, though, the saltiness factor. So don't add a lot of other salt to the recipe because the miso will add a fair amount of salt.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to try it for the next couple of weeks.
And,
Yeah.
and try out the different styles because they're very different.
Yeah, but they're all good.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
Well, thank you very much.
Bye. This is Mill Street Radio. I'm your host, Christopher Kimball. Right now it's time for this week's Mill Street Basic. On a recent trip to Dakar, Senegal, I discovered Rof. That's R-O-F. It's a mix of parsley, scallion, garlic, salt, lime juice, and zest with the added punch of habanero peppers. Rof can be used straight as a garnish for roasted or grilled meats, as a stuffing for fish, tossed with blanched sauteed or roasted vegetables, or blended into a vinaigrette for salad. To make Rof, use a food processor. Add 2 cups flat leaf parsley, 4 chopped scallions, 2 peeled garlic cloves, a habanero chili stemmed and seeded, 1 teaspoon grated lime zest, and a 1/4 cup lime juice. Process until smooth. For a salad dressing, add a 1/4 cup of neutral oil. You can find this recipe at milkstreetradio.com.